So you want to read Moby-Dick, and maybe you're intimidated because she's thick, you know. I will say it's not as difficult as you would think it would be. There are a lot of whaling facts, and that's what everyone says about this book, and everyone's like, well, I'm not that interested in whaling. I'm not that interested in whaling either, but there's just something about the way that it is written that adds so much to the story. And just a quick aside, like if you're trying to decide what edition to get, these editions by any of the editions that have the Rockwell Kent illustrations in them are really good. You're not worried about translation or anything, but just having these, having a good reading experience. I like the way the text is laid out on the page too. It's not too densely packed. It's easy to read. It's got a generous font, and this is the Modern Library edition. I think that by itself kind of helps make it less intimidating. If you're reading a book with pictures in it and there's not too many words on the page. I think early on in the book, there's this kind of great, sort of, it's a surprisingly humorous novel, surprisingly funny book. Not so much as just a haha laugh out loud thing, but also kind of that. There were so many points in this book, especially early on in the first few chapters, that I thought were genuinely hilarious. There's this point early on in the book where Ishmael is trying to get a room in the inn, and all the places he goes are either full up or whatever, and so he goes to this one place, and they're like, well, we can let you share a room. And so he's like, okay, I'll do that. And then he starts to think, this could be anyone. And so he changes his mind. He's like, no, I'll sleep out here. I'll sleep on the bench. It'll be fine. So the guy who's running the inn is breaks out a planer and starts planing the bench down. He's like, it's too knotty. You can't sleep on it. It needs to be flatter. So he planes it down. And then Ishmael lays on it. And so he's so that doesn't work out. It's too narrow. And so he tries to pull up another bench. The other bench is too tall, so he can't lay it down. He puts it near the wall. It's too cold. So stuff keeps happening. So he ends up in this room with this cannibal, who is probably an actual cannibal. But it's just a series of just comedic events, just one after the other. That just made it so enjoyable to read. And then it became so kind of wholesome after a while. This cannibal who he ends up sharing the room with, they kind of form this little bond, have a little bromance going on, and yeah, I mean it's just good. It's nothing to be scared to attempt to read, and kind of just pace yourself. I read it really quickly. I think it took me 6 days to get through it, and on the last 3 days I read almost 200 pages each day, because I just could not put it down once I really got into it. But there's just so much information in this book. It is an adventure story. It gave me a lot of the same feelings that I remember having as a kid reading Treasure Island or something, because especially at the beginning of the book when they're in the town, before they get setting off, it just gave me that same feeling. And then of course towards the end, when you get well in earnest into the actual hunting and chasing and fighting of them against the whale, it just really, it reads like an action-packed thriller novel. So it's not that difficult to read, and the writing is, kind of poetic in a way, but it's not poetic in a way that's overly dense and difficult to read. This is a very approachable book in my opinion, and I think that anyone who wants to give this a shot should go for it. There's so much packed into this, and this isn't an analysis video. This is an encouragement for you to read it. This is a book I will be returning to in the future. I absolutely would like to return to this book in the future, and I think I'll get more and more out of it and enjoy it more and more every time I read it. So yeah, gonna keep it short and sweet, but I recommend this book to just about anyone. Don't let the whale facts intimidate you, sink into them. The first section I got to of the that was really heavy on whale facts, whale lore, whatever, I was like, I don't know about this. I don't know how much of this I can do. But by the second, third, fourth section, I began to kind of like him, because it's very interesting stuff that he's putting in there. And it's not superfluous. It's not it's not really pulling you away. He's not going off on tangents that are unrelated to the story. They are tangents, but they are related. Yeah. Bottom line, don't be afraid. Go for it. And that's all I got to say about that.